let's finish today's show, as we always do, with our best bets of the weekend. We got 5 of them coming your way this week, 3 at the collegiate level and 2 at the professional level. So here we go. At noon, a game that we already talked about here on the show, Alabama going to Missouri. They are 2.5-point favorites. If you've been watching the entirety of the show, I kind of laid out why this isn't exactly the best matchup in the world for Missouri in this game. However, there is one player that is really, really good at playing football, and that is Ty Simpson, and I think he will do enough to prevail Alabama to victory in this football game. They are the best passing attack in the country, and I think they will show that again against Missouri. Do I have some reservations considering the fact that they just played 2 massive games and they have the 3rd Saturday in October, and obviously Tennessee is waiting in the wings next week? Yep, a little bit, but I think some people have disrespected the Alabama run game maybe a little bit too much. I get early in the year it was really, really bad, but they ran the football when they had to and did a good job of it last week with Jam Miller. Getting him back is a whole new dynamic to their offense. They kind of had the committee going with Kevin Riley and Richard Young getting some carries there as well, and they're still going to have Riley involved in this game, but Jam Miller gives them a whole different element to what they can do offensively. They had some success running the football, and their offensive line has been a lot more physical over the course of the past 2 weeks. Going into the year, it was supposed to be one of the best units in the country, or one of the best offensive lines in the country, I should say, and they got completely bullied and smashed right in the mouth against Florida State, so I do have some reservations because it's still the same group. It's still the same 5 guys taking the field, so that could kind of rear its ugly head at any given moment. But DeBoer has a chip on his shoulder. He's coaching with some serious intensity, some serious fire, and some anger as well, which I think is very positive, especially for this team this year after what went down in week 1 in Tallahassee. And Ty Simpson's playing at the position better than anybody in the country. And I think in this game, if he can eliminate the negative play, which I think you saw a little bit too much against Vanderbilt, where it's like, dude, just throw it away. Like, it ain't there. You tried to extend. It still ain't there. Throw it away. And he took some bad sacks in that game. Don't think he's going to be able to get away with that here in this game against Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz, really good head coach. And obviously if Missouri wins this game, they are on the map and they've got a road directly to the playoff if they're able to come through and win this game. But I'm a big believer in what Kalen DeBoer's been doing in Alabama. I'm a big believer in Ty Simpson. And that receiving core, it might not be what Ohio State has or even what Texas A&M has, but those boys are for real now, and I think they're going to find a way to score some points despite the fact Missouri has a really solid defense. So give me Alabama to cover -2.5. Just talked about Texas A&M and Florida. That's a 7.5-point spread in favor of the home team, Texas A&M. We kind of questioned what Florida team is going to show up. I don't know. You don't know. And Billy Napier, he doesn't know either what Florida team is going to show up in this game. I'm a big believer in Texas A&M. I think they're the most complete team in the SEC. Here to this point, Marcel Reed has elevated his game to another level. Really like what he's been able to do. And really the environment is really the kicker for me. Kyle Field at night, I don't think it gets more difficult. And if you haven't watched a Texas A&M game at home at night, I really encourage you to flip on the TV and check it out because, the place goes absolutely nuts, and there are tons of people in that stadium, and it gets really, really loud, and it gets really, really hard for opposing football teams. I think Texas A&M, after, they beat Auburn, but it wasn't, easy by any stretch. Same with Mississippi State. They pulled away at the end, but it was probably a little bit too closer than it should have been early on. I think you'll see a really dominant performance behind that home crowd with Texas A&M. Those receivers, Craver and Concepcion, they're really, really good. Marcel Reed can get him the football. Elko's going to have him ready to go. And, Billy Napier, we talked about earlier in the week about his annual try to save his job tour. Not sure if he's going to be able to pull it off this year. Give me A&M -7.5. Michigan and USC. I don't like doing this. I'm not an Ohio State fan at all. But I also don't like betting or rooting for Michigan at all. But I just think, I get they're going across the country and playing in California in the Coliseum. And to me, that's the only way you can get to this number as far as favoring USC in this game. I just think Michigan is a whole different level of physicality than USC. I think USC is more tough and more physical than last year. But I just don't see them being able to slow down the running attack. I think, Michigan's going to try to dominate the time of possession, what they have at the running back spot. Justice Haynes, he's an unbelievable football player. Jordan Marshall, Cincinnati guy, right? He's their second guy. He's really good. The moment doesn't appear to be too big for Underwood. He's escaping, creating plays, outside of the pocket, using his legs when he has to, getting the football down the football field. And that Michigan defense is still really, really good. They're a threat. It's going to be tough for USC to run the football in this game with Wayman Jordan. Certainly if USC can run it, then they definitely have a really good chance. And Lincoln Riley, I've been impressed with what he said in the lead up to this game. He clearly has a chip on his shoulder. He understands how big of a game this is for him as a head coach. I'm rooting for USC to win this game, but I just don't think that's the smart pick. I'm going to take Michigan plus 2.5 on the road to cover. Now, our 2 games in the National Football League. I alluded to this earlier in the year. Earlier in the show, I should say. I have not taken the Bengals on this show as a best bet of the weekend to this point, and this might be suicide. This might be a horrible decision, but 14.5 points in an NFL football game. Come on. I mean, that hook, too. Like, it's in 14.5 for Cincinnati. I think you're going to see this team take a step in the right direction, which it's hard not to, right? Because it's pretty hard to go in the wrong direction, because I don't know if there's much more room you can go as far as I mean backwards, right? I don't know if that can really be done here at this point. Joe Flacco, is he going to look great? No. I mean, he's been here for a few days. There's going to be bumps in the roads. There's going to be some procedural stuff. There's going to be issues getting the play in. By the way, we've spent so much time talking about Joe Flacco here this week, and one thing we haven't mentioned that we probably should is that Zach Taylor really struggles getting the play in timely enough, right? And you saw that with Joe Burrow and Jake Browning. Well, now he's going to be doing that with a guy that's only been here for a few days. So that could get really hairy really quickly if that's an issue once again for Zach. But 14.5, that's a lot of points. I think Joe Flacco's going to not make as many crucial mistakes as Jake Browning. He might throw a pick or two, but he's going to take the completion when it's there. He's going to make the right call. He's going to throw it out of bounds, right? He's going to make those kinds of decisions that an NFL quarterback needs to make, and I think that will allow Cincinnati to keep it within this massive number. And maybe it's some wishful thinking, but I've got Cincinnati plus 14.5. Give me the Bengals to cover. And then lastly here, Sunday Night Football, and there are some times where you look at a line and you go, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then, as somebody that bets on the game, you either make the decision of, I'm going to try to be sharp here, right? Or I'm going to fall right into the trap. And sometimes, it's sometimes one way is the right way to do it. Sometimes the other way is the right way to do it. And we haven't done this on this show yet where it's a weird line and we try to be a little bit sharp here. But that's what we're going to do. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5 points against the Detroit Lions, who we have as number 1 in our power rankings, and many people across the country do as well. And the Lions are the best team in football right now, and they're underdogs on the road at Arrowhead Stadium. But I'm going to take the Chiefs minus 2.5. 90% of the public money is on Detroit here in this spot. Only 10%. When you see a discrepancy like that, usually Vegas knows something, and we're going to see. Maybe Vegas doesn't know anything, and we're just equally foolish to Vegas. But I'm going to say Vegas knows something here, and I'm going to take Kansas City minus 2.5 to get the victory at home, cover the spread, and kind of improve here and kind of get back in this the thick of things. I think some people are like, they're going to beat Jacksonville and kind of be on their way here, and now they lose to Jacksonville. Now it's like, well, you're playing Detroit, dude. It might be the best team in football. You lose that game, you're really behind the 8 ball. I think it's only a matter of time before Kansas City goes on a run. I don't love saying that, but I just think that is the truth. Even if they lose this game to Detroit, which they might, I think they will go on a run and be a playoff team in the AFC. But, give me the Chiefs minus 2.5. Mahomes, by the way, he's playing really good football. There's been some, issues there on offense and hasn't looked as clean as usually an Andy Reid offense does. Rashee Rice coming back soon. He's not going to be back for this game, but that'll certainly help them in the future. The pick was bad against the Jags. He just simply didn't see Lloyd, the linebacker, and that completely swung the momentum of that game. But I've got the Chiefs here at home, minus 2.5 to cover. One more time, Alabama on the road, minus 2.5 at Missouri. Texas A&M, minus 7.5 at home against Florida. Michigan plus 2.5 on the road at USC. Bengals plus 14.5 on the road at Lambeau Field against the Packers, and the Chiefs minus 2.5 at home against the Detroit Lions. Open and transparent, 9-14 on the year. Hopefully we can shorten that gap a little bit and get back on the winning side of the scoreboard as it relates to our best bets of the weekend.